closely into your mic.
Well, please, Senator, may I first thank you for your kindness in inviting us to talk about our research. The research is here for anyone.
I wanted to point out to the committee, Dr. Wessner, when we say he's the expert, those are all the books that he's written actually on this program. So if any of you all have any questions about anything related to this program, you're welcome to ask me, but please go to Dr. Wessner or pick up one of those books, Senator Rubio.
We also like to recommend this. If you have trouble sleeping at night, these will probably help you out a little bit. But let me first congratulate you, if I may, Senator. Your committee and the Congress as a whole should be congratulated on having one of the most innovative, effective, and adaptive programs for small business the world has ever seen. And I'd particularly like to commend you for emphasizing the importance of stability to the program. I just wanted to start there. Thanks very much. And please interrupt me if you have any trouble hearing me. My son complains that I speak more loudly than I should, but sometimes in public it's not enough. One of the things that's very important for us to keep in mind, and I say this with great respect, but we have a tendency here to make references to the global economy, and then once we talk about legislation and programs, we get completely lost within the Beltway. And it is really important. We have traveled recently to Germany, to China, to Korea. The rest of the world is spending really hard. I sometimes feel like we're talking about the 1930s, about whether we need an army. You know, we do. The very good news is that we have a president who has quite rightly focused our attention on innovation, education, and competitiveness. So we would agree, I think, everyone around this table, that innovation is good. What is harder to keep in mind is that it's actually a little harder than it might seem. Why? Because there's what we would call a valley of death. And I'm very pleased to note here that in no small part thanks to the work of the National Academies in this area, people are recognizing that this valley of death exists. We put a lot of money in federally funded research. But the problem is, when you have new ideas, they're new. And they don't have supporters. And that exists in large corporations as well as in small corporations. How do you move this across the valley? An important point to keep in mind is you can have really good ideas that die. They'll die because they don't have the funding. SBIR brings capital to transform these ideas into innovations. You're not done then. As the gentleman here on my right, all of them can explain. But that gets you the innovation and the product development and the start of the uptake. So how do we get across here? Well, the rest of the world thinks that the SBIR program is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I could put up a list of 10 countries that have copied this program. And there's a source of dismay to us. The rest of the world is copying it, putting it on steroids while we're debating it. So I also want to stress, as you were kind enough to do, Senator, that we have not just done, there are a lot of think tanks in this town, and I sometimes think they should be called tanks because there's not necessarily a lot of thinking that is involved. They make up their opinion over the weekend. They make 3 phone calls. We did not make 3 phone calls. We talked to everybody in town, as some of the gentlemen in this room can tell you. We looked for best practice. We focused on these 4 things. There's really no one we didn't talk to, including the detractors to the program. We surveyed over 7,000 projects, not 7, not 20, but 7,000. We did 100 case studies. And these are the books that you've mentioned here. This was our principal finding for the program. And I want to stress this is a National Academies finding. You can't just say this. There were 30 reviewers on this, 20 people in the research team, 20 people in the committee. And this is what they decided. The vernacular expression here is that the program works. Of course, one of the important things to keep in mind is that it works in a variety of ways for a variety of things. Its focus is where we hurt most. We put almost $150 billion into research. How much do we put into translational research? How much do we put in to pull things across to our companies? That's something, in all sincerity, we really need to work on, not just with this program, but with other programs. As I asked Dr. Haldeman in the rollout for the budget, $32 billion for NIH. What do we spend to bring it to the market? It's stable, and you know that's important. It's large scale. This is really best practice. You need a portfolio of investments, as any venture capitalist can tell you. You can't make just a few investments and expect to win. One of the key effects is it's decentralized and adaptive. When we first started the study, we were alarmed because everybody wasn't doing it exactly the same way. And then we realized that's why it works. The National Institutes of Health works very hard at keeping people healthy. Part of the defense agencies work hard at disaggregating them when necessary. So our point here is that the Navy, the National Science Foundation, and NASA all have different things. The program brings in over 1/3 new companies every year. This is really extraordinary. It is not captured by a small group. 20% of the companies are created because of the awards, bringing things out of the research community into the market. Its core function. It encourages partnering with the university community. This program is great for universities, and I'll be happy to elaborate on that. Almost 50% of the firms that get awards reach the market, and those numbers are going up. Why are they going up? Because over time, more and more of these companies are, in fact, reaching the market. And it's also significant because SBIR is, in fact, in an early stage, earlier than venture capital, with risky technologies. And by the way, if I may, Madam Chairman, one of the key points to keep in mind, if the program ever hits 100%, it will be a bad thing. We don't want.
Repeat that again, please.
If the program ever hits 100% success rate, that would be a bad thing, because that would mean they're making very conservative,
Correct.
safe, inside-the-box
There are going to be some failures.
There has to be. The best way I refer to it is it's like shooting basketball. You have to shoot to win, and you can't be disappointed if you miss a shot, especially me. I have a lot of experience in that. But when people say, does the program work, just very quickly, what does it mean by work? Well, it creates jobs. It helps solve problems for the military. Sometimes it helps solve problems. One of our apocryphal jokes is, if it makes a better nuclear trigger, we're really not interested in widespread commercial success. Innovation success. You already mentioned the toothbrush, which one might smile at, but that's a $5 billion business. Distribution. I know this is of interest to you. One of the key variables for success here is application. It is tightly linked, by the way, to population, to the number of scientists and engineers, to the business environment, the level of VC activity, and above all, to the number and orientation of universities. Some universities are really into commercialization, some aren't. It's important to note that. So what are our key recommendations? Please keep the program, reauthorize the program, and reauthorize the program for a long time. Keep as much flexibility as you can. I would much rather you make a phone call to a program manager than pass a law. Draw from best practices, and your bill emphasizes the importance of that, and we are very pleased to note that there has been increased learning. One of the things that the new administration, particularly in DARPA, is working hard on is shortening the cycle time. If we can get the cycle time, the decision time, down to a few months, rather than 6 months or 9 months, the value of the program, and I'm sure my colleagues here in the business world can emphasize that, goes up enormously. We need to do more on outreach. There's interesting work by Sidney Panos in Silicon Valley that women-owned firms are a great underutilized asset in this country. They actually have a higher success rate than many firms. We also would really emphasize the importance of funds for managing the program. As these two programs approach $3 billion a year, having a little money to evaluate, to assess, to know whether your experiments are working, to be able to check on your firms is increasingly important and would get more buy-in within the agencies themselves. Should we put more money into it? This is the Academy finding. We can't tell you that this is more important than the second jet engine for a military aircraft. We can't tell you that it's more important than having troops on a cliff, on a peak in Afghanistan. But we can tell you that if you put more money in this program, it will be used effectively. Already, these are some of the things that are happening within the program as a result of the recommendations we've made. There has been an explosion of experimentation. You've been very kind with me already. So let me close by saying that SBIR is our outstanding innovation program. And I would urge you, with all my heart and all our expertise, to reauthorize this program and to get this on the President's desk for a sustained period of time. That stability is very important. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Dr.